The great ship Aurora Dawn moved through the silent stars. It carried a group of humans on their first journey to the center of the Valari Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. For centuries, humans had lived, quietly on Earth, unknown to other species. But now, after building faster ships, they had finally joined the great community of planets. Among the crew was a young explorer named Ethan Carter. He was not a soldier or a leader. He was a historian, chosen because he studied ancient cultures and languages. Ethan often wondered why he had been selected for such an important mission. But deep inside, he believed that humans had something special to share with the galaxy, something not measured by strength or wealth. When the ship reached Valara Prime, the humans saw a world more beautiful than they had ever imagined. Two suns shone in the sky, painting the land in golden light. Towers of silver rose high above green forests and rivers that sparkled like glass. The air itself seemed alive with energy. The Valari greeted them with grace. They were tall, elegant beings with shining eyes that shifted colors like jewels. Their movements were calm, almost like dancers. They were proud of their empire, and they looked at humans with a mix of curiosity and doubt. A grand ceremony was held in the capital city. The Valari Emperor welcomed the humans, saying, "You are small in number, young in years, but brave to stand before us. Today, you join the Council of Stars." Ethan stood quietly among his people, feeling nervous. He noticed that many Valari nobles whispered about the humans. Their voices carried tones of amusement, as if they did not expect much from this new species. But then, Ethan's eyes met hers. At the far end of the hall, standing near the Emperor, was Princess Lyra, daughter of the throne. She was young by Valari standards, but her presence was strong. Her silver robes flowed like starlight, and her eyes glowed with a soft violet hue. Unlike the others, she was not whispering or laughing. She was watching him. Ethan quickly looked away, embarrassed. He told himself she must have been looking at someone else. After all, why would a princess notice an ordinary human? Later, during the feast, nobles and guests filled the great hall with music and laughter. Ethan wandered near a balcony, seeking fresh air. To his surprise, Princess Lyra stepped outside, too. For a moment he thought he should leave, but she spoke first. "You are Ethan Carter, yes? A historian of Earth?" Ethan nodded, trying to remain calm. "Yes, Princess. That is correct." Her voice was gentle, but curious. "Tell me, what makes humans proud of their world?" The question surprised him. No Valari noble had asked such a thing. Most had only spoken about trade, technology, or military strength. Ethan thought for a moment, then said, "We are proud not because we are the strongest. We are proud because we never stopped trying. Even when the sky seemed too far, we kept reaching. Even when we failed, we stood again. That is what makes us human." Lyra tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You speak with heart, not only with mind. That is rare among nobles of my people." For the first time since arriving, Ethan felt seen. Their conversation continued, moving from Earth's oceans and forests to Valara's twin suns and endless skies. He found himself speaking freely, forgetting she was a princess. She laughed softly at his stories, especially when he told her how humans first dreamed of flying by watching birds. As the night went on, Ethan realized something impossible. He liked her, not only as a princess or as an alien, but as a person. She was kind, curious, and full of light. Yet he also knew that this feeling was foolish. A human and a Valari royal could never be together. When the feast ended, Ethan walked back to his chamber on the ship. His heart was restless. He sat by the window looking at the stars and whispered softly to himself, "I wish I could marry her." He thought nobody could hear. But far above the city, in her own high chamber, Princess Lyra stood by her balcony, the night wind flowing through her hair. Her hearing was sharper than human ears. She had heard his whisper. Instead of anger, she felt something strange, warmth. A human's heart had spoken without fear. And in that quiet moment, the Princess of Valara smiled. The next morning, the humans were invited to tour the Academy of Knowledge, a grand place filled with Valari history. Ethan walked with his group, but often found Lyra beside him. She asked him about Earth's past, and he asked her about Valari legends. Slowly, they built a bridge of trust, one question at a time. Other nobles began to notice. Some frowned, whispering that the princess should not lower herself by speaking so much with a human. Ethan pretended not to hear, but Lyra's eyes grew sharper whenever such whispers reached her. Still, she did not stop. One afternoon, she showed him the garden of crystal trees, where branches shone like glass and sang when the wind passed through them. Ethan told her, "On Earth we have cherry blossoms. They bloom for only a short time, but people travel far to see them. Maybe your crystal trees are like our blossoms, reminding us to treasure beauty while it lasts." Lyra looked at him with quiet wonder. No one in her world had ever compared their crystal trees to something so simple, yet so meaningful. By the end of the first week, Ethan realized that what he thought was impossible had already begun. A bond was forming, delicate but strong. The Valari nobles might laugh. The Emperor might forbid it, but his heart no longer cared. And Princess Lyra, though silent for now, had already made a decision deep inside her. The story of a human and an alien princess had only just begun. The days passed quickly on Valara Prime. Every morning the humans attended meetings, sharing knowledge about Earth and learning about the Valari Empire. They were treated politely, yet Ethan often felt the weight of many eyes on him. Wherever he went, Valari nobles seemed to be watching, whispering behind fans of silver cloth. At first he thought it was only because humans were new to the galaxy. But slowly, he realized the truth. They were watching him, because the princess was always near. Princess Lyra never hid her interest. She walked beside Ethan during tours, asked him questions during meals, and even laughed at his stories when others stayed silent. Her bright violet eyes followed him with a curiosity that no one could ignore. The nobles did not like it. They believed humans were too young a species, too simple to deserve such attention. To them, Ethan was not a scholar. He was a distraction. One evening, after a long meeting, Ethan found himself in the grand library of Valara Prime. The room stretched, higher than any Earth cathedral, filled with glowing shelves of crystal tablets. He traced his fingers over one, unable to read the flowing Valari script. "You should not touch those without guidance," came a voice behind him. Ethan turned. It was Lord Sarath, a high noble, tall and sharp-eyed. His robes shimmered with golden threads. He looked at Ethan as one might look at an insect. "My apologies," Ethan said quickly. "I was only admiring the work." "Admiration is easy," Sarath replied coldly. "Understanding is harder. And your kind is far from ready to understand." Before Ethan could answer, another voice spoke. "Perhaps you underestimate them, Lord Sarath." Princess Lyra entered the library, her steps calm but firm. She moved to stand beside Ethan, her presence like a shield. "Humans are quick learners. I have seen it with my own eyes." Sarath bowed slightly, though his smile carried no warmth. "As you wish, Princess, but curiosity can be dangerous, especially when it strays beyond the boundaries of tradition." With that, he left, leaving the air heavy with unspoken warning. Ethan sighed. "I think I made another noble angry." Lyra smiled softly. "Do not worry. Sarath has been angry since the day he was born." Her lightness eased Ethan's heart. Yet he could not ignore the danger in Sarath's words. Still he found himself saying, "Why do you defend me, Princess? You risk much by doing so." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly in the library's light. "Because I see something in humans that my people have forgotten. You value hope. You treasure dreams. That is why I wish to learn from you." Ethan felt warmth rise in his chest. He wanted to say more, but words failed him. Instead, they walked together among the glowing shelves, sharing quiet thoughts until the stars outside shone brightly against the library windows. In the following days, Their bond grew stronger. Ethan told her more about Earth, the oceans that stretched without end, the forests filled with countless voices, the cities that glowed like constellations at night. Lyra listened with wonder as though each word was a jewel. In return, she spoke of Valara's past, the first emperors, the wars of old, and the long years of peace that had made the Valari slow but proud. She confessed something rare. People are strong in knowledge but weak in change. We move like rivers, calm, steady, unwilling to break our path. But you, Ethan, you humans are like storms, unpredictable, but full of life. That is why they fear you. That is why I do not. Her honesty struck him deeply. One night, unable to sleep, Ethan stepped onto the balcony of his chamber. The twin moons glowed above, casting silver light across the city. He thought of Lyra, of her kindness, and of the impossible wall between. Then, without meaning to, he whispered again, "I wish I could marry her." He thought the words vanished into the night, but once again, Lyra was closer than he knew. Standing on her own high balcony across the palace, her sharp ears caught the whisper. She pressed her hand to her chest, her heart trembling. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not even the nobles who tried to win her favor with gifts and titles. The human's whisper was not a demand, not a command. It was a dream, and that made it powerful. The next morning, rumors spread through the palace like fire. Some claimed the princess had been seen too often with the human scholar. Others claimed they heard him speak boldly of her beauty. At breakfast, one of the human officers whispered to Ethan, "Careful, my friend. They are watching, don't draw too much attention." Ethan only nodded, though his heart was restless. He tried to keep his distance from Lyra during the day, afraid of causing her trouble, but she found him anyway, smiling as if nothing had changed. "Do not let their whispers silence you," she told him quietly as they walked through the gardens. "If I cared for the opinions of every noble, I would not even breathe." Her courage amazed him. He wanted to thank her, but the words were too heavy in his throat. Instead, he simply walked beside her, hoping the moment would never end. But the whispers reached the emperor himself. During a council meeting, his gaze lingered on Ethan longer than before. His voice was calm, yet it carried hidden weight. "Humans are welcome guests," the emperor said, "but they must remember their place. Friendship is acceptable. Anything more would bring imbalance." The words struck Ethan like a silent blade. He lowered his head, feeling both shame and sorrow. Lyra's face remained calm, but her eyes flickered with fire. That night, when they met in the crystal garden, she spoke firmly. "Do not lose heart, Ethan. My father speaks as emperor, not as a man. Empires fear change, but change always comes." Ethan looked at her, the moonlight reflecting in her violet eyes, and felt something he could no longer deny. "Then I will not give up," he said softly. For the first time, Lyra reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were light, almost trembling, but real. "You are brave," she whispered. "Braver than you know." And though the garden was filled with glowing trees and singing winds, Ethan knew the true light was standing beside him. The bond that had begun in whispers was now becoming something stronger. But danger was growing too. Every step they took together would soon test not only their hearts, but the fate of two worlds. The first sign of trouble came like a shadow across the stars. Reports reached Valara Prime that outlying colonies were under attack. The attackers were not traitors or rival empires. They were the Draxan swarm, a species known only in old warnings. The Draxan were not builders. They did not trade or speak. They consumed. When the news was announced in the Emperor's hall, silence fell over the nobles. They had not faced a true enemy for centuries. The Valari Empire was vast and wealthy, but it had grown slow. Its fleets were strong in number, yet its commanders followed rigid patterns. They believed tradition would always guide them to victory. Ethan listened as the nobles argued. Some wanted to send the fleet at once, others demanded careful study. None agreed. At last, the emperor declared, "We will observe. A single strike will test the strength of this swarm. Valari, patience will guide us. Ethan felt unease. On Earth, patience was wisdom. But sometimes waiting too long meant disaster. He wanted to speak, but he was only a guest, a human historian. What voice could he have among stars? Yet Princess Lyra noticed his troubled look. Later, when they met in the garden, she asked softly, "You disagree with my father's counsel, don't you?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. On Earth, when danger came, we learned to act quickly. To wait too long was to lose everything. The Draxan will not stop to respect tradition. Lyra's eyes narrowed with thought. You may be right, but few here will listen. My people see humans as young children in a hall of elders. Then, Ethan said quietly, we must show them we are more than children. A week later, the first battle was reported. A Valari fleet met the Draxan at the edge of a mining colony. The Valari ships were larger and armed with powerful beams, yet the Draxan moved like a storm of insects. Their ships were smaller, faster, and attacked in swarms. The Valari followed their old formation, a perfect diamond in the stars. At first they fired with precision, but the swarm broke the pattern, circling and striking from angles the Valari had not prepared for. By the end of the battle, half the fleet was gone and the colony had fallen silent. Shock spread across the empire. For the first time in living memory, the Valari had been defeated. Ethan sat with the human delegation as they listened to the council. Nobles spoke with fear, some with anger. Lord Sarath declared loudly, "This is the result of weakness. We must send every fleet at once and crush the swarm with fire." But others warned that rushing might leave Valara Prime undefended. The council spun in circles, voices rising, but no new answers came. It was then Ethan rose. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "With respect, your old formations are beautiful, but the Draxan do not fight with beauty. They fight with chaos. If you wish to defeat them, you must learn to fight in ways you never have before." The hall grew silent. Dozens of eyes fixed on the human who dared to speak. The Emperor raised his brow. And what would a young species, barely beyond its own moon, suggest to an empire of stars? Ethan bowed slightly. "Not arrogance, Majesty, only experience. On Earth we faced enemies stronger than us. We survived by using what they did not expect: speed, surprise, and unity. We shared ideas quickly, changed plans when needed, and turned weakness into strength. That is what humans can offer." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some nobles sneered, others whispered thoughtfully. Sarath laughed aloud. "Madness. You suggest we abandon thousands of years of perfect order to follow the tricks of children?" But Lyra's voice cut through the noise. "Perhaps children see what elders have forgotten." The Emperor's gaze moved from his daughter to Ethan. His expression revealed little. "Your words are bold, human. Boldness is easy. Proving them is harder. We will see." Days later, another outpost was attacked. This time, Ethan was allowed to join as an observer, though Sarath warned it was only to witness the Empire's strength. Lyra managed to arrange a small group of ships under Ethan's direction. It was not much, but it was a chance. When the Draxan swarm appeared, Valari commanders prepared their diamond formation again. Ethan, aboard a smaller cruiser, quickly sent a different command to his little group. "Break formation. Scatter. Draw them out. Think like hunters, not statues." The Valari captains hesitated, but Lyra's influence had placed trust in him. Slowly, the ships followed his plan. They darted in different directions, firing in short bursts, weaving like fish in water. Yarao, Draxan followed, breaking apart to chase them. That was the opening Ethan needed. "Now strike, together!" The ships suddenly turned, attacking from all sides. The swarm, stretched thin, faltered under the unexpected move. For the first time, Valari ships fought with unpredictability. And for the first time, the Draxan pulled back, leaving wreckage behind as they retreated into the void. Cheers filled the smaller ships. A victory, small but real. When the report reached the capital, the Emperor sat in silence. At last, he spoke. One battle does not win a war, but it seems humans may have more to offer than we thought. Lord Sereth scowled but could not deny the truth. That night in the garden of crystal trees, Lyra found Ethan staring at the stars. You did it, she said softly. You showed them what humans can do. Ethan shook his head. It was only one fight. The swarm will return stronger. We only bought time. Sometimes, Lyra replied, time is the most precious victory. They stood in silence, the wind singing through the crystal branches. Ethan turned to her, his voice low. Do you ever feel the whole galaxy is against us? Lyra's eyes glowed gently in the starlight. Then let us stand against it together. For a moment, Ethan forgot the danger, the whispers, the impossible walls between them. All he saw was her, the princess who believed in him when no one else did. But far across the stars, the swarm was gathering again. Their hunger was endless, their numbers uncounted. The Valari Empire would need more than strength or tradition. It would need something new, something human, and soon the choice between love and duty, between survival and tradition, would test them both. The victory at the outpost gave hope, but only for a short while. Within weeks, the Draxon swarm returned, larger than before. Dozens of colonies sent distress signals. Entire trade routes went silent. The Valari Council grew restless, arguing, louder each day, but no clear answer came. The Emperor called for calm. The Empire has stood for thousands of years. We will endure again, he declared. But many nobles were less certain. They had seen the swarm's endless hunger. Ethan remained a guest in the palace, yet his name was now whispered everywhere. Some nobles called him a dangerous dreamer. Others called him a hero. He did not enjoy either title. He only knew the truth. The Draxon would not stop. One evening, Lyra found him studying a map of the stars. His eyes were tired, his hands restless as he traced routes across the glowing display. You do not rest, she said gently. Ethan shook his head. The Valari fleets move too slowly. By the time they reach a colony, it is already gone. We must change how we fight. Lyra sat beside him, her robe shining faintly in the light. Tell me what you see. He pointed at the map. The swarm is not like an army. It spreads like fire. You cannot wait for fire to come to you. You must strike it where it begins before it grows. If we hunt the swarm at its edges using smaller and faster groups, we can cut it down before it grows too large. Lyra studied him with quiet admiration. A dangerous plan, but perhaps danger is what we need. The next council meeting was tense. Lords argued about sending a grand fleet, while others demanded they protect only Valara Prime. At last, the Emperor raised his hand for silence. We will hear the human's voice. Ethan Carter, step forward. Ethan walked into the center of the hall. Dozens of jeweled eyes stared at him. He felt small, but he remembered Lyra's words. Do not lose heart. He bowed and spoke clearly. Your fleets are mighty, but too slow. The swarm will not fight you where you are strong. They will spread until there is nothing left to defend. If you wait, you will lose everything. Murmurs spread through the nobles. Lord Sereth rose, his voice sharp. And what do you suggest? That we scatter our ships like fools? That we abandon order and tradition? Ethan faced him calmly. I suggest you fight as humans do. Small groups, fast strikes, not waiting but hunting. If we take the fight to the swarm's edge, we can weaken them before they grow unstoppable. The chamber erupted with voices, some angry, some intrigued. Sereth laughed. Madness. We will not lower ourselves to chaos. But then Lyra's voice rang out clear and steady. It is not chaos, it is survival. I have seen what Ethan's ideas can do. Without him, one of our outposts would already be gone. Must we ignore success simply because it does not fit old patterns? All eyes turned to the Emperor. His face was unreadable. At last, he said, Words are wind. Results are stone. Ethan, Carter, I grant you command of a small fleet. Prove your gamble is more than dreams. If you succeed, we will listen. If you fail, no human voice will be heard again. Ethan bowed deeply. I will not fail, Majesty. The mission was set. 10 Valari cruisers, a few human ships from the Aurora Dawn, and Ethan as their coordinator. Many nobles mocked the idea, calling it a waste of ships. But Lyra visited Ethan before departure, her eyes glowing with pride. You stand at the edge of history, she told him. He smiled weakly. Or the edge of disaster. Lyra touched his arm lightly. Even if you fall, you will fall reaching higher than any before you. That is what makes you human. Those words stayed with him as the fleet left Valara Prime. Their first target was a swarm gathering near a mining world. Scouts reported dozens of Draxan ships ready to strike. Normally, Valari fleets would arrive in perfect formation. But under Ethan's plan, the fleet split into 3 fast groups. Remember, Ethan said over the comms, do not wait for orders. Adapt. If you see an opening, take it. Trust each other. The Valari captains hesitated, unaccustomed to such freedom. But Lyra had chosen loyal commanders, and they followed his lead. The battle began. The Draxan rushed forward like a black tide, their ships weaving and swarming. Instead of forming diamonds, Ethan's groups darted apart, striking from different angles. Group 1, pull them right. Group 2, circle behind. Group 3, strike their center now. The sky blazed with fire. Valari ships moved with a freedom they had never known, changing direction mid-battle, adjusting like dancers in storm winds. The Draxan, used to breaking rigid formations, found themselves confused. Their swarms split, chasing ships that refused to stay still. Ethan's heart pounded. He gave commands not like a general, but like a conductor guiding music. And for the first time, the Valari fought with unpredictability. Hours later, the last Draxan ship broke apart in flame. The mining world was safe. Cheers filled the comms. Valari captains spoke words they had never used before. Victory by human plan. When the fleet returned, the capital was alive with voices. The impossible had happened. The swarm had been beaten in open space, not by tradition, but by something new. In the council, the Emperor's voice carried across the chamber. The gamble has proven true. The humans fight with fire, and today, that fire saved Valari lives. From this day, their words shall be heard, among us. Some nobles bowed reluctantly. Others looked at Ethan with newfound respect. Lord Sereth, however, stood in silence, his eyes burning with quiet rage. But Ethan did not think of Sereth. He thought of Lyra. That night, in the garden of crystal trees, she met him once again. Her smile was brighter than the stars. You have done what none thought possible. You gave my people hope. Ethan laughed softly. I only gave them a little chaos. No, Lyra said firmly. You gave them courage, and you gave me reason to believe in more than duty. For a moment, the wind carried silence between them. Then Ethan whispered, almost without thought, I wish I could marry you. Lyra turned, her violet eyes glowing like twin suns. She did not answer yet, but her smile held a promise. The gamble had changed more than a battle. It had changed the future, and soon, the price of that change would test them both. The days after Ethan's victory were filled with both celebration and unease. Many Valari nobles praised him, but others whispered that a human should never hold such influence. Lord Sereth, in particular, grew more hostile. His voice in the council became sharper, always warning that humans were dangerous, that the princess was being led astray. But the whispers could not hide the truth. Ethan's strategy had saved a world. And when news came that the Draxan were gathering their largest swarm yet, even the Emperor had no choice but to call upon him again. The swarm gathers near the Rim colonies, the Emperor announced. If they break through, the path to Valara Prime will be open. Ethan Carter, you will guide our fleets once more. Ethan bowed. I will do my best, Majesty. Lyra's eyes met his across the chamber. She did not speak, but her look carried a promise. You will not face this alone. The fleets gathered. Dozens of Valari cruisers joined by human ships from Earth. It was the largest force humans had ever been part of, and yet the swarm they faced was larger still. Thousands of Draxan ships blotted the stars, moving like a dark sea that seemed without end. Ethan stood on the bridge of his command ship, his hands steady despite the storm in his chest. He remembered Earth's old stories, battles, where a few stood against many, where courage turned the tide. This was one of those moments. Remember, he told the captains over comms, do not fear their numbers. Fear only standing still. Move, adapt, and trust one another. We are not statues, we are storms. The battle began. The swarm rushed forward, a tide of shadows. Valari beams lit the darkness, tearing through the first wave, but more replaced them. Ethan gave rapid orders. Group 1, draw them left. Group 2, circle behind. Humans, follow me straight into the center. The ships darted like sparks in a hurricane. For every Draxan destroyed, more came. Valari ships took damage, but this time, they did not break into rigid formations. They moved freely, each trusting the other. Hours passed. The battle raged without end. Ethan's throat was dry from shouting commands. The Draxan were powerful, but slowly, piece by piece, their swarm began to thin, and then came the turning point. The Draxan revealed a massive flagship, larger than any other, pulsing with strange energy. It guided the swarm like a hive mind. Ethan knew at once if they destroyed it, the swarm would fall into confusion. But the flagship was heavily guarded, surrounded by endless ships. To reach it meant flying into near-certain destruction. Ethan's voice was firm. I will lead the strike. The Valari captains hesitated, but Lyra's voice came over the comms. Follow him. He has not led us astray before. With her words, courage spread. A group of ships formed around Ethan, charging toward the massive flagship. Draxan ships swarmed to block them, but the humans and Valari fought side by side, carving a path through the storm. At last, Ethan's ship reached firing range. All power to weapons. Aim for the core. The beams fired. The flagship shuddered, its glowing heart breaking apart in a storm of light. A great ripple spread across the swarm. Without their leader, the Draxan ships faltered, moving without order. The Valarian humans struck hard. One by one, the swarm broke apart, scattering into the void. The impossible had happened. The greatest swarm in memory was defeated. When the fleets returned, the capital erupted in celebration. For the first time, humans and Valari cheered together. The Emperor himself honored Ethan in the Grand Hall. You came to us as a guest, the Emperor said, his voice carrying across the chamber. You now stand as a defender of our empire. Humanity has proven its worth among the stars. Applause filled the hall. Yet Ethan hardly heard it. His eyes found Lyra's, standing beside her father, her smile shining brighter than victory itself. And then, before the gathered court, she stepped forward. Father, Lyra said, her voice clear. This man has saved our people twice. He has shown courage where others saw only weakness. And he has shown me something more. Hope. The hall grew silent. The Emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. Lyra, what are you saying? She turned to Ethan, her eyes glowing with quiet fire. I choose him. Not as ally, not as guest, but as my heart. Gasps filled the chamber. Nobles whispered in shock. Some cried out in protest. Lord Sarath stepped forward, anger burning in his face. This cannot be allowed. A human cannot stand beside the throne. But before he could speak further, Ethan whispered, almost without meaning, to the same words that had followed him since the first day. I wish I could marry her. This time Lyra heard him clearly. She turned, smiled, and spoke aloud so all could hear. My answer is yes. The hall erupted in chaos, voices shouting, nobles protesting, others cheering. The Emperor's face was unreadable as he raised his hand for silence. At last he spoke. The princess has chosen, and though my heart is heavy with tradition, my eyes cannot deny truth. This human has saved us, and perhaps he may yet save our future. Let it be so. That night, when the stars shone over Valara Prime, Ethan and Lyra stood together in the garden of crystal trees. "You changed everything," Ethan whispered. Lyra smiled. "No, Ethan. We changed everything. Together." The trees sang softly in the wind, as though blessing their promise. Ethan reached for her hand, and this time he did not hesitate. For the first time since he whispered his impossible dream, it no longer felt impossible. It was real. And yet, they both knew. The story was not finished. The Draxen were not gone, forever, and many nobles still resisted. But whatever came next, they would face it together. The human and the alien princess, the dreamer and the heir, the storm and the river. Their journey had only just begun. The weeks after the battle were filled with preparation and celebration. Valara Prime had survived, thanks to the courage and cleverness of a human and the trust of a princess. The Draxen swarm had been driven back, though scouts warned they might return one day. Yet for now the galaxy breathed easier. Ethan walked through the city streets with Lyra by his side. Citizens of Valara Prime, humans and Valari alike, looked at him with newfound respect. Some smiled. Some bowed. Even nobles who had once scorned him nodded quietly. Lyra turned to him, her eyes shining. "It is strange, isn't it? Only a few weeks ago the galaxy seemed so distant. And now, your people are part of ours." Ethan laughed softly. "I never thought we would be accepted. Not so quickly, anyway." She smiled, squeezing his hand. "You earned it. You earned more than respect. You earned hearts." The Valari Emperor, though still careful with words, began to see humans in a new light. He summoned Ethan to the palace council. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and leadership," the Emperor said. "And though some still question it, I see your value. You are no longer merely a guest. You are a friend to Valara." Ethan bowed. "Thank you, Majesty. I only did what I thought was right." The Emperor nodded slowly. "And you have taught my daughter that courage and heart are as important as tradition. I will not stop what she wishes. If she chooses, it will be done." Ethan felt warmth rise in his chest. For months, he had feared the impossible. And now, it seemed possible. Preparations began for a ceremony unlike any Valari had seen before. The wedding was not only a union of two hearts, but also a bridge between species. Humans traveled across the stars to witness it, bringing gifts, music, and stories of Earth. Valari nobles and citizens decorated the palace with crystal banners and starlight lanterns. Lyra spent the morning of the wedding walking through the garden of crystal trees, remembering the day she first truly listened to Ethan. The memory of his gentle voice, his laughter, and his quiet courage made her smile. Ethan, meanwhile, wandered the palace corridors, unsure if he deserved this honor. He had faced impossible odds, fought an endless swarm, and earned the respect of an empire. But today, he was not a hero. Today he was simply a human, hoping to marry the princess he had grown to love. The ceremony began under two suns, shining above the palace like living stars. Guests from many worlds gathered, speaking in languages Ethan did not know. Yet as he looked at Lyra, all other sounds faded. She wore a robe of silver and violet, her hair flowing like light across her shoulders. Her eyes met his, and a calm courage passed between them. When the officiant spoke, he addressed not only the couple but all gathered. "Today," he said, "we witness more than a marriage. We witness a promise that courage, respect, and love can bridge worlds, that humans, young and untested, can stand beside one of the oldest empires of the galaxy, and that hearts, not titles, define greatness." Ethan's hand found Lyra's. He whispered, "I still can't believe this is real." She smiled. "It is real, and it is ours." Vows were exchanged in simple words, yet they carried power. "I choose you," Ethan said, "not for duty, not for honor, but because I cannot imagine life without you." Lyra's voice was steady, filled with light. And I choose you, Ethan Carter, because your courage and heart have shown me a future brighter than tradition alone could promise." When the final words were spoken, the crowd erupted in applause. Humans and Valari cheered together. Some cried, some laughed. The Emperor himself clapped quietly, a rare smile touching his face. Lord Sereth remained silent, though even he could not deny the joy in the hall. The celebration continued through the night. Music flowed like rivers of light. Dancers from Earth and Valari performed side by side. Food and drink from distant planets filled the tables. Yet for Ethan and Lyra, the true joy was simple: being together. They walked through the gardens after the feast, beneath the crystal trees whose branches chimed softly in the wind. "I never thought humans could belong here," Ethan said, looking up at the glowing leaves. Lyra laughed softly. "You belong anywhere courage is valued, and you have shown all of us that humans are brave in ways even we had forgotten." Ethan looked at her, the stars reflecting in her eyes. "Then we will face the galaxy together." "Yes," she said, "together." In the days that followed, humans gained respect across Valara Prime. Stories of their bravery spread to other species. Many began calling humans the Brave Dreamers, a name that reflected their courage, creativity, and hope. Ethan and Lyra's marriage became a symbol, not just of love, but of what humans could achieve when they dared to dream. Valari scholars studied Earth's ways, soldiers practiced human tactics, and other species began inviting humans to their councils. The galaxy was changing, and humans were no longer unknown. Ethan often stood beside Lyra, looking at the stars, and thinking of how far they had come. From a whispered wish in the quiet night to a wedding beneath twin suns, their journey had been impossible. And yet, it had happened. And as they held hands, walking into a future filled with challenges and adventure, Ethan whispered once more, not to himself but to Lyra, "I still can't believe that you said yes." Lyra smiled, her fingers tightening around his. "I always knew you were worth saying yes to." The stars seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if the galaxy itself was celebrating. And so a human and an alien princess began a new chapter, not only for themselves but for all who would follow. A chapter of courage, of hope, and of the boundless power of humanity. For wherever humans went, they brought light, bravery, and dreams that could change the stars.